Alright, ready for that Scar versus Jason Blade. Got my handy dandy controller and we're going to get into it. Hey, Scar is here. Awesome, good timing. That Scar here in the chat, here in the yellow. In fact, your chat is like a greenish yellow too, so spot on. And Jason Blade also in the chat, also here in the blue. These are replays, by the way, that's why the players are in the chat. I'm excited to see this best of 5 here. 2 beginner players. They've both played in events before, however, so not like absolute beginners. And there's our 4-farm double. Looks like Jason is going to be a bit greedy here and go with the turret defense. This is a pretty wide open place for a turret defense. That Scar could go around this way pretty easily. In fact, that's exactly what he's doing now. He actually sold one of his Warrens, so this is not as much commitment on the rush. But that pig by itself, 2 squirrels can definitely kill a pig. Nice targeting here, saves the commander as well. You don't actually need to click and hold that that one, but it's fine. Jason Blade floating a little bit of food here, unsure of what to do. Just gonna drop some Warrens. I think you can actually support 5 Warrens on, or sorry, 3 Warrens on 5 pigs, but it is down to 4 pigs now, so let's see if Jason can hang on here. That Scar just pushing in with 3 squirrels. And that Scar is also totally up to 8 farms now, so that is amazing for that Scar. Unfortunately, Jason Blade didn't have the right response to it, so that Scar gets to take a pretty huge lead here. Welcome everybody in the chat. Welcome back to my casting channel. Alright, all the way up to 8 farms completed here. 3 tier 1 Warrens. Jason Blade is actually so far behind, he's trying to queue up this 8th farm, but he only has 2 tier 1 Warrens, so that Scar should be able to just run over him. This is, the lead there at the beginning was far too great. Alright, that Scar takes game number 1. Oh yeah, with the rush distances that close, that was definitely a solid choice there. It was bound to be a quick aggressive game. Alright, going into game 2 here. That Scar in the green now, up here, up 1-0, and Jason Blade in the blue. That Scar is running a squirrelless deck. He's got all the other tier 1, all the other damaging tier 1. So if you are to drop squirrels and try something else, this is not a bad way to do it. Just try to get flexibility from all the other tier 1. It's tough though, and Jason Blade is running a pretty meta variant of the wolf deck. Having the squirrel mole together is going to be a pretty solid counter to the lizard toad mole from that Scar. But we'll have to see how it goes. Jason Blade going with the 7 farm safety Warren, and what I mean by that is 7 farms bought, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Buy a Warren, then you queue up your 8th farm. It's just there for safety. You slightly slow down your 8th farm in exchange for a slightly faster first squirrel, just in case your opponent is trying to do something a little bit cheeky. It's a pretty small difference, but not a bad idea. The important thing is that you do get your 8 farms up, but having a little bit of safety is kind of nice. And Jason going for the expansion here. Gonna drop a mole Warren. So that's 2 tier 1 Warrens, 2 tier 1 Warrens on both sides. both sides going for the expansion. And Jason actually gets his expansion farms up first as well, so. That Scar is going up to Snake. Oh, okay, reselling and rebuying the Snake War in there. It's probably better to do that with Lizards since they build so much quicker. Generally speaking. Oh, getting into Toads. Okay, so that Scar getting a couple farms and rounding out his composition to what he wants. Jason Blade staying ahead in the farm game and getting some Skunks. It's actually going to be pretty good for the Snake player depending on micro. Ooh, a nice flank here is going to be really good for that Scar actually. So he does get a kill on the farm there, but the Lizards coming in from that side is an excellent trade for that Scar. A Snake does pop out now. So that's one of the strengths of Lizards is they get to go from angles that other units wouldn't be able to get to as quickly. Welcome into the chat, Delphius. Alright, that Scar pushing. He does get a kill on a Warren, which is kind of nice. That Snake has tagged a Mole. And we'll get away alive there. So that, I think that's another decent trade for that Scar. Jason Blade is up in farms right now, so if he can hang on, he can pull ahead. That Scar looks like he's going to play more aggressive here. He did grab a couple of farms as well, so he's not like full all in with the aggression here. It all comes down to the Snake tags. If he can tag the Skunks here, that's 3 tags on one Skunk and 2 on the other. So the Snake might just barely get out. Hey, the Snake gets out alive. That's good for that Scar. Jason is going to lose his Skunks here. Now the Skunks were helpful in clearing some of that Scar's tier 1, but oh, and going up into Falcon. It's a risky choice against Snakes. You can see that Scar is pretty ahead in army right now, so if he pushes in again, Jason might be in trouble. However, Jason is getting up in MG, and that Scar is actually going from a different angle, so that MG is not going to do as well here. Pretty good Toad connections. And he's tagging that Skunk down, so that Snake is going to be able to get out again. And Jason Blade, now that he's got his 16 farms, he's locking down tight with MGs, and he's going to go for the Wolf. That Scar going to go for Boar. Now, we know that Boar generally is good against Wolf. These compositions are pretty asymmetrical, so it's harder to say. It's more complicated than that. But if the armies were equal, the Boar should do well. So I like that Scar's chances here. He definitely was playing aggressive and taking some good trades there. Alright, Jason Blade is going to start to siege this forward Warren here. This is going to be alright for that Scar, though, as long as he can keep his Snakes going. The balloon is up, which gives him so much vision. Look at that. That's like caster vision right there. And he gets to see Jason Blade trying to farm up here. That's excellent. Both tier 3 are paid for. They're going to pop at the same time. And if the Boar goes right away, the Wolf actually needs a little bit of time to get its buffs out well, so it's not as instant of a spike of power, if you know what I'm saying. Whereas the Boar, you can go immediately. So Jason Blade's still hanging on here. Now he's actually, the commander is trying to get back here. Gonna focus down this balloon maybe. He does kill that one. The balloon goes down. It didn't do nothing, but it maybe wasn't as much as he was hoping for. And lots of Snake tags going down. All of the tier 2 is gonna die. So as those units die down, that's gonna be better and better for that Scar. He does have a third base as well. He did lose some forward Warrens there. As well as that balloon, and he is relying heavily on Toads, but he does have a pretty huge economy to back that up. Jason Blade getting up into a scarier number of Falcons, and here we go. The army is gone. A nice angle for the Boar there to take out a lot of the squirrels, but the Wolf buffed units do DPS down the Boar, and I think Jason Blade is going to be able to take this. So he's got a couple of Falcons that are not poison tagged. He's going to lay down some more gas before that one skunk dies off. It's tough to use snakes well. It takes a lot of micro and it takes a lot of solid decision making. The Boar Warren is picked off there, so I think Jason Blade is going to take this one. Excellent aggression from that Scar this game. A nice close game. I like to see it. Alright, taking out the economy here. That Scar looks like he's trying to set up for a base trade. Not a bad idea playing Lizards. Actually, the base trade is the best idea here, but there's some MGs at home, and with the reinforcements trickling out as well, it's not going to work out this time, so GG from this Scar. GG from that Scar, rather. And Jason Blade ties up the series. All right. That Scar going back to the yellow color here. That's the winning color for him. And Jason Blade hanging on to the blue. Same deck from Jason Blade, and that Scar playing something totally different. Back to Squirrel for the tier 1, and he's got Cam Falcon, he's got Wolf, he's got Mine, he's got Artie. I love this deck, actually. This is solid. If you've got good Artie play, then you can really make this deck work. That's amazing. Artie is definitely trickier than you think to use well. But we'll have to see what the idea is here. Where is that Mole Warren? Oh, it's a defensive Mole Warren. Interesting. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the defensive Mole Warren here. If you wanted a Warren of something, a single Warren of Squirrels is going to do you a lot better than a single Warren of Moles. But either way, there's the 8th farm for that Scar started up, and Jason Blade, what's his idea going to be here? Okay, he does sell the Mole Warren. That's another reason why a Squirrel Warren would have been better, because you actually just lost food straight up. That was like a 20 food loss, I think, something like that. Fair enough. Jason Blade in the chat saying he was worried about early moles, although you're on the high ground, so there's not like any sneaky places for moles to be. So generally the Squirrel Warren can handle mole rushes too, as long as it's placed behind pigs like back here where it can't be sniped. Either way, doesn't matter now. Both sides are up to there are 8 farms here. That Scar getting into his tech right away. I love to see it. And Jason Blade getting some tech as well. I love to see beginner matches where they seem to be fairly closely matched. The beginner field it's a pretty wide skill range and a quickly moving skill range as players learn. So there's a lot of one-sided series in that division. So I'm excited to see a series kind of both players taking games. That's definitely what we want to see here. Both sides are getting up into their tier 2 mix. We're seeing some Cam Falcon and some Skunk Falcon. And it looks like Jason Blade going for a bit more aggressive play. He's going to grab this campfire and maybe just play the 1 base, which campfires are an amazing support for a 1 base. Okay, he's going to expand again. That's fine. It's fine as well. If you do want to play 1 base aggression, getting a campfire is a fantastic decision. Oh, why would you just leave your units there? Oh my gosh. Go. What? You're going to lose a mole. Alright. Barely just in time there with the mole crit. Nice. And that Scar is farming up here. This would be a solid place for an Artie right behind those mines. You can kind of control the middle of the map, keep yourself safe on 4 bases, keep your opponent down to like 2. If that's the kind of style you want to go for. Okay, so a little bit more defensive of an Artie. I don't blame you for the defensive Artie either. This is definitely a lot harder for Jason to punish. A little bit harder to scout and a lot harder to pick off, so that's a solid choice as well. You can definitely defend your 4 bases pretty great with that. And this space is going to be hard for Jason to take anyway because you have Falcons. Looks like the Wolf has gone down for that Scar, and Jason Blade getting up into a few more Falcons here. And Jason Blade looks like he wants to be a little bit aggressive around this angle. But the Artie is just about to finish, so that's going to help against the squirrels and moles. There goes the Wolf Warren for Jason Blade. All right, so we're going to have some Wolf Falcon versus Wolf Falcon action. That can be pretty spicy. There's a second Artie, so a little bit of Artie creep here. Not a bad idea, as long as once this Artie's up, you actually sell that Artie. Generally, you don't want to have them both up. Excellent farming as well. Another reason to sell this Artie as soon as that one's up is to make sure that you can fund your army here. There we go. Excellent. And more Falcons coming out as well. I really like the way that Scar is approaching this. You know what? I also really, really like the way Jason's approaching this. Both players, I like the ideas here. So Jason here getting his Wolf finished. To pay for that Wolf might be good to sell both MGs right now. That Scar definitely is not ready for an attack, and you've got your army, including those moles, ready to pop out. So selling both of those MGs right now might be an amazing macro decision here. Might help a lot. Yep, that's one of them anyway. That Scar just continuing the Artie creep. No reason to overextend. You really can choke out your opponent, so good read on the map. This is going to be very difficult for Jason Blade to get out of. However, he is giving himself the best chances he has got. Mass Falcon, and Arties don't do much against Falcons, so the Wolf just pops out for that Scar. Jason Blade did pick off the building Artie there, so that's definitely a lot of value, and his own Wolf is going to pop out in a moment here. Ooh, nice Artie hits here. So as long as that Scar doesn't die to the Falcons of Jason Blade, since the Artie can't shoot up and take care of those. Uh-oh, enough Falcons are left over here. The only things shooting up right now are pigs, and that's not exactly the situation you want to be in. So the Arties are picked off. That Scar should be able to clean up now, and Jason has to back up. So the micro situation there, what I would recommend to that Scar is you got to make sure you're focus firing your opponent's Falcons. That's huge. If you can focus fire your opponent's Falcons, you win that like so one-sidedly. But if you don't, you start to lose value there. Now, you do have a Wolf and your opponent does not, so your mass Squirrel Wolf is gonna do great here as long as you can keep your Wolf alive. Yeah, see, look, the Squirrel's running forward, so that Scar is actually doing just fine anyway. I'm going to push forward and get some value here. And Jason Blade has to tap out. Excellent use of the map there and the Arties to really, really squeeze Jason Blade into a bit of a corner strategically. All right, going into game 4. That Scar has taken the lead here. And he is switching back to green, which means it's time for Jason Blade to win a game, right? Let's see what happens here. That Scar going with Lizard Mole into Boar Owl. Interesting decision here. So trying the squirrelless comp again. MG definitely can help in a squirrelless comp. You can defend and try to get up to your stronger tech. And Jason Blade here, much more meta looking, except for the snake. So he does have the squirrel mole, he does have the falcon. Snakes though, snake and falcon together is an interesting decision. So let's see how it goes. Takes a lot of micro to get full value out of. Hey, welcome into the chat, Szenszej. We are doing your games next. All right, there's that defensive MG. Just playing a bit safe, a little bit nervous about early rushes. As it turns out, there is no need to be worried. That Scar is just going up to 8 farms, so Jason Blade making sure can go home and grab his 8th farm as well. Okay. So a little bit late on the 8th farm, but that's fine. Getting up into a couple Squirrel Warrens. That Scar trying to expand forward, so Jason Blade actually has an opportunity here to kind of put pressure on with his first couple of Squirrels. If he wants. Alright, he is swapping out his composition here, getting a few moles. Good point from Sush in the chat. That Scar doesn't have anything that shoots up besides lizards. He's going to rely on lizards for anti-air all game. And Falcons definitely can outscale lizards. Nice focusing on the squirrels here. Good good micro decisions. Not wasting the damage on the moles that have a lot more hit points, so. When fighting squirrel mole, targeting the moles, or targeting the squirrels is generally the better choice. Okay, Jason Blade does have quite a lot here, so that Scar's gonna have to fall behind his MGs here. You don't want your opponent's moles to get up on the MGs though. That can be really scary, and it happens. So Jason Blade pushing forward. It's a little bit of a confusing situation when you're dealing with MGs. You feel like you have to leave your army just slightly behind the MGs, but that's actually incorrect. The best place to put your army with MGs is slightly in front of them, because MGs are not good tanks, especially against moles. That Scar does hang on here. He loses his base, and he is going to get into some skunks, which will help against the squirrel-based comp of Jason. He's going to double down and try to expand here yet again. I don't think it's going to work. Might be worth selling here. Yep, good sell. You do have a very large amount of lizards here. Oh no, you're letting the moles onto your warrens. It's alright. Moles going through and you're picking off the squirrels, so it gives you some counterattack potential here, but this is pretty all in. You are going to pick off this expansion. And it allows the time for the lizards to heal as well, so they can kind of go through and do some more damage. Meanwhile, Jason Blade is focusing the mill, and he's losing all of his units on it. Also, the micro there is keeping the lizards alive as well, so this is kind of working out, this base trade. It's tough to base trade against lizards. So now that the dust has settled, excellent call from that Scar, by the way, to grab this base, but right now it looks like that Scar is up 7 farms to 4, but Jason Blade does have a couple of warrens, and that Scar does not, so moles moving across the map. There are going to be some squirrels maybe trying to flank this, but that base is almost dead. Jason Blade is going to go after it. You might have to, you have to hold micro here. Click micro doesn't do it. There you go. There's the hold. The base does go down, and that's going to be no more income for Scar. He is starving, and he's not going to have enough food to pay for his lizards. So he's going to have one last shot here. Let's see, is 6 lizards enough? Forces a sell there. 7 lizards. Oh, and he does have a mole warren somewhere. He got 42 seconds to go kill Jason Blade's base. And he loses his own base. All right, what a kind of a crazy, scrappy, base tradey game there. A little bit of sloppy plays from both sides, but that's fun and exciting. And we're going to a game 5. That was really cool, and it's good to experience some of those wacky base tradey games. They're great learning experiences to try to figure out what works and what doesn't, because there's so many like ideas bouncing around your head, like, okay, do I defend harder? Do I base trade? Do I eco? You know, there's so many like different split-second decisions, and it's hard to get really good at situations like that without just a lot of experience. It's actually very difficult to offer a one-size-fits-all. So, I mean, you can study the games of Meek and others that do well in those scrappy late game situations. Sasha's pretty solid in those situations as well. Although she doesn't put herself into them as often, so you don't see it as much. But Meek, on the other hand, does it all the time. So, cool to see. It's one of the things that Tooth and Tail has over other RTSs because of Some of the big factors, I think, are because of the like just the ability to base trade in general, but also like the full sell value on stuff allows for some interesting tactics late game, quick build times and stuff like that, as well as the lack of buildings. Like in most RTSs, you lose if you, well, in many RTSs you lose if you lose all your structures. In Tooth and Tail, the Warrens don't keep you alive, just the mills. So I don't know, it's something unique in Tooth and Tail that I haven't seen in other RTSs. There aren't a lot of base trading situations in many other RTSs. All right, both sides expanding, and that Scar getting into plenty of tech here. Cam Skunk, interesting combo here. Not the most common, but it's not bad. They do just have overlapping roles, but this can be a really solid fighting composition. Actually, both sides going with the Cam Skunk, so that's kind of cool. Sasha in the chat mentioning, what if we have a live series to make up for the Lego? I'm not opposed to it. I have limited time this afternoon, so it depends on how long the next casting series takes. Who did I have Lego against? Scav? I haven't seen Scav here in the chat, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Let's just see how much time we have when we get finished with all these. I could see UrbaneOlive versus Szenszej like going into 5 super long games, or in like 3 very, very quick like spicy games, depending on the players. They seem, I think they're fairly evenly matched, so we've got the old Premier and the new Premier, basically. Anyway, back to this game. Both sides getting more and more tech, more and more farms, not too much tier 1, so excellent macro and excellent scouting to realize your opponent is kind of doing the same thing you are, so good calls here. That Scar is resetting his tier 1. It looks like he's going to go for Wolf. Oh, do it. Drop an owl. Drop an owl, too. No, he doesn't. Okay. It's all right. It's all right. Wolf goes down. Alright, and a few moles dropped as well there from that Scar, just to make sure he doesn't die while his Wolf is coming out. Excellent timing on the macro there. It works out really well, so the Wolf is paid for. Jason Blade trying to go for a push here. Let's see if that Scar can hold. There's a lot of skunks here, a lot of squirrels I mean, but also a lot of skunks, yeah. Getting up on top of the Warrens. One goes down already. One of the Mole Warrens goes down. So Jason Blade pushing right on in. But that's going to be about it. So he picks off a lot of tier 1 Warrens. And then that Scar holds. He loses a pig, but it's an old pig that was about to follow anyway. And the Wolf is about to pop here, whereas Jason Blade... where's his Wolf Horn? There it is. Just paying for right now? Almost? Almost? In a second. Yeah, good pullback for sure from Jason. You get a bunch of damage, you don't lose everything, you get back with your valuable units. Good call, yep. Alright, that Scar looks like he's not looking for a push. He's gonna continue to macro up and use his Wolf on his economy here to try to get into that 3rd base. It's kind of a risky move to Wolf buff your economy because it will farm out so quickly, but sometimes it gives you a nice push into the Owls. And Owls don't really need... Once you've got your Owls up, you don't really need a lot of eco, so I actually really like this decision from that Scar to to bump the economy here. Jason Blade does his wolf out, and he is gonna. It looks like he's kind of setting up for a push here. He's gonna buff the Warrens to get this last round of squirrels out real quick. And that's a scary army, man, with 6 cams and 4 skunks. That's pretty terrifying. Now, that Scar does have a good number of cams on his own, and his first owl is about to pop out. I'd love to see another owl, but here comes Jason Blade again. Can that Scar hold? Unfortunately, Jason Blade's army is wolf buffed, and that Scar's is not. The wolf comes over a bit later after buffing the pigs, and Warrens are gonna again go down. I don't think that Scar can actually hold this. The wolf buff being off of his army actually made a huge difference here. And Jason Blade just killing everything, taking out that Owl Warren right before it pops out. So, as much as I liked the wolf buffing the economy over here of that Scar, turns out it was a fatal decision to not pull it and buff his army and be ready for that fight. I cannot overestimate or overemphasize how impactful that was. Alright, and Jason Blade pushing through with a powerful wolf push. GG's. Alright, ready for the second series. UrbaneOlive versus Szenszej. Szenszej in the blue here, in the right, and UrbaneOlive in the green. Honestly, I'm super hyped for this match. I don't know if I've seen these guys play before, but it's cool when we have somebody rise up as a new Premier player. UrbaneOlive really just knocking everybody's socks off and getting up here with his mole boar play, with his meta plays. The mole scientist, as I like to call him. So it's cool to see a new Premier player come up, because then you can kind of see them start to take games off of a lot of the stronger players, and you can kind of line them up against everybody and see how they do. Still taken down by some of the very, very tippy-top Premier, like Tatanka and Melvin or whatever, but getting to see UrbaneOlive play against all of the other Premier players that we've got and see how he does. I'm hyped for this. That's all I'm saying. It's a broken and long-winded way of saying I'm excited to see what Szenszej wants to play here to take out UrbaneOlive. UrbaneOlive definitely with the more well-known specific style, a little bit less flexible. That's the other thing about newer Premier players, is as you get this good at the game, the next goal then is to try to diversify and get really good at like some of the off styles and some of the other off-meta ways of playing. But for now, Shen probably has a pretty good idea of what kind of style he's going to be up against. Alright, so we have Skunk first here versus Cam first on this side. Where's this Mole Warren? Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, the Mole Scientist's going to work here. Oh, I don't know why he bought that farm. So, actually just going to pick off that expansion. So against a Mole player, it's just super important to get your first squirrels up. Just one squirrel run. Even if you're going to be behind on tech or something, the Moles can just mess with you, man. Like, the Moles could have taken out that Skunk Warren, but... Anyway, UrbaneOlive getting into a second Cam Warren here, really ready for the aggressive Squirrel Mole Cam pressure if Szenszej wants to be greedy at all. Shen responding with some Falcons. This is a pretty solid choice, actually. It's tricky because if the Cam Mole push player focuses the Falcons down with their small numbers of squirrels too quickly, then you can really be in trouble. But if they don't, the Falcons can actually defend really well. So nice snipe again from these cams. UrbaneOlive is just forcing Shen to actually defend his expansion and not take it for free. So Urbane definitely taking a pretty nice advantage here. He's got the cams ready to go. He's getting more squirrels so that he isn't going to be weak against the Falcons. I think he saw the Falcons of Shen, so that's why he's adding squirrels here. Not relying on the moles too much. He's also expanding, whereas Shen has tried and failed twice to expand now. So I'm liking UrbaneOlive's position right now, for sure. We have a question in the chat while we kind of see these players macro up. Question in the chat, what's good against Wolf Falcon? And Sasha's absolutely right. Boar Falcon is probably the best counter you've got. Or maybe if you're running Wolf of your own, sometimes Mass Squirrel can be pretty good against Mass Falcon in some situations. So if you're also running Wolf, then Squirrels can help. Definitely not Pigeon. No, not Pigeon. Boar Falcon, yes. Well, I guess the Pigeon would help the Boar stay alive, but I mean, the problem with Pigeons is they're not good against super duper high DPS comps, and Wolf Falcon is like the highest DPS clustered in the game, so you just have to compete with it that way. But as we've mentioned, Boar is pretty good against Wolf. Here we go. Szenszej is pushing in now, starting to lay down a lot of skunk gas. That's an actual uncomfortable choke that UrbaneOlive has found his army in. There's another one. So Shen also bringing some pigeons to help keep those skunks alive, and he's actually just retreating right now. UrbaneOlive having a really scary, huge number of squirrels and moles, so Shen's got to be careful here. Not enough skunk gas really to contend with all of UrbaneOlive's stuff. UrbaneOlive with a lot of DPS here. The campfire is going to go down. Olive has a lot of extra farms right now, so I don't think that Shen did anything wrong necessarily with that push. Maybe doing the push wasn't going to work, but it's because he was so far behind from the early game, honestly. That's really where it is. Ever since, yeah, like the 3-minute mark or something. Crazy aggression from UrbaneOlive taking that first game here. All right, Szenszej here in the blue. Let's see what he wants to do for game 2 now that he has been rudely reminded of what Urbane is capable of. UrbaneOlive doing a little bit of the mole cheese here. He's going to be able to pick off this farm, and if Shen wants to farm up this farm as well. So excellent call to grab the Squirrel Warren here. You're still going to have to sell this once the mole pops out, but you want to force him to actually buy the mole. Good sell, and now you can rebuy. So that is the best response there from the defender of the mole play there, is to make sure you get your squirrels. So Shen certainly knows his answers to the mole cheese. That is the other thing about Urbane starting to get up into Premier and play with stronger players, is there's a lot more knowledge in the player base at the higher levels about how to hold some of those cheeses. Like, the math is just going to be there on the defender's side, so you can't rely on it quite as much. You can still kind of decide to control the game how you want. Ooh, nice pick-off there. And it looks like Olive wants to actually push his advantage here a little bit off the back of that squirrel snipe. Really tight timings here. Shen does have moles as well, so dropping a mole warren here would be... Yeah, there it is. It's going to be excellent. UrbaneOlive probably will be able to kill a pig, and that's probably about it here. Also, that pig was really far back, which is really unlucky for UrbaneOlive. If it had been more exposed in the corner, that might have gone a little bit better. But UrbaneOlive backing up. He did have this really greedy forward warren, so Szenszej should be able to punish that and knock it down. Some really heavy swings back and forth in this game now. Looks like Shen has a tiny advantage here. With mines, though, Urbane should be able to hold, but maybe Shen can kill off this warren and back up. That warren does go down. Shen has definitely gotten some value, and now all he has to do is not overextend. So he is going to back up here, and at least, okay, he does sell the mole warrens, and he's going to head all the way home. And UrbaneOlive just does not have enough to counter push here. I think that's actually a mistake. This is too much. Szenszej is going to have more than enough to hold. Granted, Shen only has 7 farms, not 8, but still, I think, yeah. So UrbaneOlive figures out what he's up against, and he sells and goes home. He's dropping a bunch of mines to stay safe. And I like where UrbaneOlive's at because of the 8 farms being up the whole time. Shen is making some really great decisions here to try to come back, but it hurts. 7 farms versus 8 is just not great. So Olive is like a solid 100 food or so ahead, for sure. And he is going to use his advantage to expand and try to get more ahead. It's a classic RTS concept. If you're ahead, you don't have to go kill somebody. You can just use your lead to get more ahead until you're so far ahead, then your opponent has no choice but to leave the game. It's like an Artosis thing. Classic old Artosis. All right, getting up into Skunks here. The Skunks are an amazing call, actually. Since Olive does not have cams yet, which cams can beat out Skunks pretty well, but UrbaneOlive is relying on a pretty heavy squirrel composition, so the Skunks are going to do well for Shen. Speaking of Artosis and other RTSs, yes, I haven't watched finished the day 1 of the ASL yet because it's a long-ass video, but yes, I'm definitely trying to keep up with that. All right, UrbaneOlive going to push in here. The first skunk is just going to pop now, but is it too late? The mole's coming from the other side of the map, so Szenszej's army is really fragmented here. He is going to push back with this skunk coming out, but that was 2 pigs lost, so Shen might have to have a killer counter push. Is 1 skunk enough here? I don't think so. If UrbaneOlive kills the skunk, which he is, and then evenly trades, it's just too much economy for UrbaneOlive now. He even has a fresh farm at the 5-minute mark, which is so good, so helpful. Obviously, the push is eventually cleaned up, but that's way too much damage, and Shen taps out. UrbaneOlive taking a 2-0 lead here on match point. This was a much closer game than game 1, I think. Well, at least a bit closer, but Shen really going to have to change his approach here a little bit. So Shen back against the ropes here. Squirrel Lizard is the answer that he is going to try, as well as the Mass Tier 2. All the Tier 2 options. Snakes, I think, are an amazing choice right now. Despite being a pretty off-meta unit, they do offer a lot of interesting options. We've seen players like Tatanka really show us some pretty good snake uses. It's not what the unit used to be, but it's not bad. UrbaneOlive is actually changing things up as well. He's going Boar Fox. Oh my gosh, dropping the cams so that he can have pigeons to go with it, keeping the squirrel, mole, and falcon. What do you think of the pigeon decision here as opposed to cams? I guess the idea is moles are tanky, and they help the squirrels, and then the boar later on, so the cams are a little bit less necessary, whereas pigeons can be very helpful, especially if you are against snake. So unfortunately, Shen's snake decision here. Uh-oh. You know what? Hold that. We might not actually see anything. Szenszej went a 6-farm double, which is a very, like, unconventional rush, but UrbaneOlive went 8-farm expand, so he's kind of in trouble here. He's not even going to get his mole warren down in time. So UrbaneOlive missing a single scout cycle, one of the most crucial scout cycles, and it's going to have to sell down, and now there's lizards in his face. Can Shen pick off a pig? I think he can. He's actually gone home to grab a 3rd warren and a farm, so he might have lost his opportunity there. I think he could have killed a pig, but at the very least, he did keep UrbaneOlive from that super greedy opening. UrbaneOlive is going to have moles out now, so definitely will be able to hold. And Shen has shown that he's got lizards and is not afraid to go around different sides of the map. Alright, Urbane's selling down his moles. He's trying to farm up here and just use Mass Squirrel. Problem is, Squizzard is actually pretty dang good against Mass Squirrel, so Shen has some options here. He is going to expand as well and just be a tiny bit behind in eco. Still waiting for an opportunity with his lizards over here. I think Olive knows that there's lizards out on the map since he's scouted the warrens here. So his army placement is great, though. There's nothing really lizards can do unless they try to sneak in this way, but they're probably all going to get cornered. And the thing is, if you go in and harass and kill some pigs and lose all your lizards, UrbaneOlive can just counterattack and kill you because he's trigger happy, right? He's ready with his moles to go kill you. If you lose 6 of your lizards, that's enough of an opening for Urbane to do a lot of damage. So Shen being very careful here for good reason. Alright, and it looks like Shen is placing his farms to try to protect the mill from mole snipes. Once the pigs are up, they take more mole hits to kill because they are not they're not counted as structures, so the structure crit is not there. So this actually, you don't see it a whole lot, but it's back to the harkening back to the OG mole days when I started a couple years ago, and pigs can really help keep your mill alive. Granted, the situation's a little different since the forward mills now are a lot weaker at first. There's only 90 hit points on this mill instead of 150. Lizard still sitting off to the side, just patiently waiting. No harm in them being out there right now. They can come home quickly for a flank if needed as well. Both sides are now feeling safe getting up into 16 farms. It was cool to see the 6-farm double rush. That's a really, really uncommon rush, generally because if it's scouted, it really, really just doesn't work. But because of that, Urbane hadn't scouted during that window, so I do like that opening from Shen. It's a shame it didn't get more damage. UrbaneOlive getting the boar down, and it looks like, yeah, Shen is going to be able to scout the boar pretty easily here. And he's actually not going to be able to get home. UrbaneOlive with plenty of money is going to drop the fox as well as some more falcons. So boar, fox, falcon is a pretty brutal composition here, especially if you get a couple of pigeons in there. You can just be out on the map forever. Shen is going to struggle to get this third base farmed up. Snakes are going up, so that is Shen's only hope, basically. If he can get some really sick snake tags and pick off the fox instantly, and then maybe, you know, if you can maybe tag the boar down and then get away, that's fantastic. But more likely, if you can get the fox and then pick off a whole bunch of falcons with your snake tags, then you've got a fighting chance to lock down the boar with your cams, kill it off with your falcons, you know the deal. So basically, the snake tags have to be absolutely perfect. But other than that, I think UrbaneOlive should be able to get this game. The boar fox is just brutal, and it doesn't have to be a pushing comp either. It can be a harassment comp. Yeah, good call here. Shen didn't grab this 8th farm. I don't know if I think that's one of the cases where he's not aware of that. It's hard to see behind the mill. It is important to check your minimap, guys, because it's a lot easier to notice this being missing if you're looking at your minimap more. There's the first fox coming out, and it's going to pick off a snake. That's not looking good for Shen's chances here. Man, Shen is in trouble. Urbane just too powerful, and he is showing a little bit of flexibility already getting into boar fox instead of relying entirely on the cams here. Shen's army is also a little bit fragmented. He's trying to go for a surround here. Lots of snake tags. A lot of falcons are going down, but is it enough? Shen's resources are starting to dry up here, and he's trying to... Oh, the lizard flank killing the fox is excellent. Is it not enough, though? The boar bomb is going to kill off that mill, leaving Olive with some dead falcons here. Oh, they do kill the snake off, though. Damn. That last snake snipe was pretty important, actually. Snakes do so well in low eco situations that having one more there would have been awesome. You can see Shen not actually selling the snakes because he wants them in this late game situation. So selling down both sides, trying to unblock themselves. UrbaneOlive has a pretty decent economy, and he sells the fox here. Nice lizard flank on that fox. That was pretty important. I think UrbaneOlive should still be able to win, but we'll see. His falcons and his boar are not out yet, and he's invested a lot into that. So we're hoping for some really good skunk gas, and we're just not getting it. Too many squirrels from UrbaneOlive based on his superior eco here, and he is going to have the boar as well. Now Shen is coming in with a couple of snakes now. I think he might have actually pulled the trigger a little bit too quickly, not expecting Olive to have that much tier 1. If you had the army that had, the blue army that just died over here a minute ago, if you had that combined with this tech, that'd be pretty solid, but the boar is coming now. Man, Shen is in trouble. Now, the thing is, Urbane's farms are going to fallow out here pretty soon. So, if Shen can manage to trade again and kill the boar off with those snake tags, maybe there's only one snake, though. And it's not going to happen. UrbaneOlive just 3 O's. Brutal.